answers, but if you just started building, your house might end up looking kind of like this. Before you build a house, it's usually best to plan things out ahead of time. Before you start constructing a building, an architect must create a document that outlines the structure of your building. So who wants to tell me what an architect is?
They design houses.
Yeah, they design houses, and it doesn't have to be just houses. They could design a hospital or a stadium or really any kind of building. And they design it in a way that it's not going to fall down and turn out like this. So you might be wondering why I'm telling you about houses. Well, today we're going to be learning about the architects who created and shaped our government and the documents they created. But first, let's explore how this nation came to be. The story starts on the eastern coast of America in the late 1700s. Although most of the people who lived in these coastal colonies had been born on American soil, they were ruled by a faraway British king. The British system of government was a monarchy. So who wants to tell me what a monarchy is?
It's like a king and queen.
Very good. It's a king and queen. It would be a system of government that has a ruler, such as a king and queen, that usually passes down in a hereditary way. So for instance, if you were a king, then your son or daughter would become a king or a queen, and their son or daughter would become a king or a queen. So it was passed down like that. And so here in the United States, what's our system of government?
Democracy.
Democracy, very good. And do we have a king or queen? What do we have?
We have a president.
We have a president, very good. So in the United States, what we have is a president and a democracy, but in Britain, in the 1700s, the system of government was a monarchy. So, what is government? Okay, this might be a little bit of a hard question. Well, the word government refers to the laws that govern a people and the people who construct and enforce these laws. Okay, so to translate that into plain English, then basically it's the laws that we follow. So don't steal, don't kill people, are all laws that we all follow, right? And people like the police would enforce these laws, make people obey them, right? So this is how government works, to make sure that people don't go around doing whatever they want. So speaking metaphorically, the word government might refer to the blueprint or the house that was built from the blueprint. So these architects, some of our founding fathers, created or were trying to create a strong foundation for our government. In the 1700s, British citizens did not have a lot of say in the government. For example, they did not get to decide who their ruler was. It would just be the king's son or daughter and the son or daughter's son or daughter. It would go down like that, right? So they didn't get to decide like we did. And at the time, American colonists had even less power to decide their own fate. But they still had to pay taxes. So Americans had to pay taxes, but they often didn't have any say in how their tax money was spent. If the king had wanted, he could have used the colonists' hard-earned money in a poker game, and they wouldn't have been able to do anything about it, right? So that would be a little bit hard to swallow, right? If you had to pay taxes, and you didn't have any say in where they went or how they were used. So to put this in a different way, how many of you pay rent to your parents or guardians? I don't see anybody raising their hands, so how many of you pay for your part of the groceries every week? Right? Not many people. How many of you pay the garbage and electric bills? Okay, now how many of you make important family decisions? Like like super important. Okay, I see some raised hands, right? So I get to help my family make some decisions just like you. Certain decisions might be a little out of my control. Being a kid can be kind of annoying sometimes, but imagine how much worse it would be if you had to pay rent and the garbage and electric bills, and you still had to obey somebody else's rules. So that was kind of how the colonists felt. They had it even worse off than you guys. They had to pay taxes, and they didn't have any say in decisions. So this was why, in 1775, American colonists, led by George Washington, rebelled against the British in something called the American Revolution. But colonists didn't just lead on the battlefield. People like Thomas Paine wrote important works that helped raise awareness about the American cause. He wrote a very famous work called Common Sense, as a matter of fact. So some of you may have heard of that. And then also Benjamin Franklin. Raise your hand if you've heard of Benjamin Franklin. I see a lot of raised hands. He's very famous. Benjamin Franklin worked as an ambassador to France to raise funds, is one thing that he did. And an ambassador is an official representative of an organization or movement. So he went to France representing the United States and asking for help in the American Revolution, which France did. Patrick Henry gave speeches about the fight for freedom, and in one of his most famous speeches, he said, "Give me liberty or give me death." So raise your hand if you've heard that before. Okay, I see a lot of raised hands. So as the revolution raged on, a group of colonists published the Declaration of Independence. So you may have heard of that. Does anybody want to tell me who wrote the first draft of the Declaration of Independence?